I'm going to go to the teacher's
and we'll keep going. So now I'm clicking on the teacher button and I've entered in my username and password. And it will take me to the RazKids site. I just want to point out that Learning A to Z is our parent company, and there's several different divisions of us and different programs within Learning A to Z. We have Reading A to Z and RazKids, which is what we're talking about today. But there's also HeadSprout, Science A to Z, Writing A to Z, Vocabulary A to Z, and ReadyTest. I point this out to you because once you've logged into one of our programs, you're actually logged into all of the ones that you have purchased. So once I've logged into RazKids, I can just click this button and scoot over to Reading A to Z and vice versa. So it helps with navigating once you start using the programs. So this is the teacher page for RazKids, and everything I'm going to show you today is under this Manage Students button and over here in the teacher corner. The number one question that teachers ask me is, how do I determine which level to enroll my students in? And to figure that out, you can go over here to the teacher corner, and we do have a level correlation chart. And I show you this because it may work for you, but it may not. We have correlations to age levels, age ranges, grade levels, Fountas and Pinnell, reading recovery, DRA, PM readers, and Lexiles. So if your assessments give you these kind of results, then you can just use this chart to convert it to a RazKids level. But from the sound of it, you don't have an exact correlation to these reading programs. So what your options are is that you can use other data and the grade levels and age ranges to determine RazKids levels, or you can use our running records, which are fantastic for determining levels. And I'm going to show you today how to assign the running records. But in the teacher corner over here, we have a link that says About Running Records, and everything you need to know for how to assess students, how often to assess them, and then what to do with the data is going to be located under that link. So now I'm going to go to the Manage Students button, and this is everything you possibly need for RazKids. Under Manage Students, you can see all the students on my roster, and then you can see links to my roster page, to the reports, assignments, and in basket. I'm going to start by showing you how to set up your roster. Okay, so here's my roster because it's already set up, but if you were to come in for the first time and you didn't have a roster, you would click over here where it says Add Students, and then just follow the steps for the information that they want. So over here you can see what you need to enter in is a class chart name. And we do this because we don't want the whole world to be able to see each student's name on your roster. If you remember when I logged in for Brittany, she went to that roster page and she was able to see every kid's name, which means that when she goes home, her parents and everybody else can see those names as well. So to protect students and give a little bit more security, you can enter in a unique class chart name, which is what the other students and parents will see. And that could be a ID number, it could be a nickname, or a word that you use just to identify that student. You can also enter in their first and last name, and this is optional, but I recommend doing it because when you look at your reports, you're not going to want to see the nickname or student number that you assign to your students. You're going to want to see who they actually are, and this is only visible to you. Then you assign your students their reading level, and there's several places to change this, just so you know. Episode, ReadyTest, and Writing are features of other programs that can be linked to RazKids. Right now you guys have not purchased those components, so you will not see these options. So I'm going to skip over them for now. Then you decide, do you want students to have access to that on your own book room? Because that's one of those features that you can either give them access to or you can take it away. The reason to sometimes take it away would be, I've had teachers tell me, Hey, little Bobby goes on Raz Kids all the time. I know he's using it, but he's still at the same level that I enrolled him at in from months ago. Why is that? And the reason is that he's not spending time in the reading assignment. He's spending most of his time in the book room. And we actually want it to be the opposite. We want students to spend most of their time in reading assignment and then a little bit of time in the book room. And if you're having trouble controlling students and making them stay in the reading assignment, you can just uncheck this box and they won't even see that planet. And when you're ready to give it back to them, you can. Then over here, you decide, do you want your students to have access to the incentives? Those are the Robot Builder and the Raz Rocket. And then here you can assign them a password. You do have the ability to not give them a password, but I don't recommend that. I've seen it often where students log into that roster page and they click the wrong name either on accident or on purpose, and they either acquire data for the wrong student or they spend someone's stars and you have lots of tiers in the class. So what I recommend doing is giving them a password. You can either give them a text, and it could be numeric, or 1 or 2 pictures as a password. When you're done here, just click Save, and your students will be added to your roster. So I'm going back to the roster page now, and I just want you to see a couple features. On the roster, you can see each student's reading level. Remember, you will not see HeadSprout, Ready Test, or Writing. You can see their password and you can change it. You can also see if they have parent access. Looking over here, you see this number 1. That means Brittany has one parent that has access. And you also see this 1 in a red circle. That means she has one parent that has requested access and I have to approve it. So if I click on this plus sign, down here I can see that Brittany's mom, that's her email address, has access. She has logged in 49 times, and the last time she logged in was today. Now if I wanted to give Brittany's dad access, I can just type in his email address right here, click add, and the company will send him an email with directions on what to do next. Now let's just say Brittany's dad went onto the site and requested access without me, which is fine. I would get this message and I would either approve or deny it and click Save. If I approve it, then her dad will now have access. Over here we have different classroom settings. The first one is for the book room. This is another place where you can either give students access to the book room or take it away by unchecking the box. If you give them access, you can customize the book room by clicking on this link. Remember when I told you that they have access to multiple levels in the book room? And when they first are signed up, they're going to have access to levels A through Z, which we do not want. So what you can do is you can move this cursor and give them access to specific levels. Or even better, you can click this button and you can give students access to 2 levels below their level and 2 levels above. Or you can change that number. That's just my go-to number that I like to use. What's nice about that is as students move up with their levels, the book room levels will move up with them as well. Then down here, you see all the different options we had under More Books. If you see some options here that maybe aren't appropriate for your grade level of students, you can uncheck some of the boxes. So for example, you might not want your students having access to the poetry books. You could just uncheck that box and your students will not see the poetry books. Over here you can give your students access to the Spanish books. So there's leveled books that are written in Spanish that students can have access to. You will not see On Your Own Writing because that's part of Writing A to Z. And then over here you can decide if your students are going to have access to the incentives. Up here there's some great information as well. We have send home information. We have personalized login cards that you can print that has every student, it has the teacher's login information, the student's name, and it has their password on it and the website. So those are great to print to send home and to have in class. We also have several letters available to parents to inform them that their child has access to Raz Kids, and it tells them about gaining access to the reports. Over here we have email activity report. You can have the company send you a weekly or monthly email with information of how your students are doing on Raz Kids. I highly recommend this because I find that students get better results on these sites when the teachers are monitoring what they're doing. However, I know as a teacher myself that you already have enough on your plate and it's hard to remember to do all of these little things. So I like to have the company send me a report so that it takes takes something off my to-do list that I don't even have to remember to do. I just get my email and I can view it really quick and I'm good to go. Last feature here is send class a message. You have the ability to either record or type a message to your students and to award them bonus stars. Okay, now let's move on to our reports. Oh, let me stop for questions.
Lisa?
Yes.
We saw on the customizable parent things that comes in multiple languages, including Arabic, which we're pretty pleased to see because we have a rising Arabic population. So if the parent logs into the report, is that also translated for them into other things or just those instruction pages?
Just those instruction pages for now.
Okay, thank you.
But that's actually a brand new feature. This is the first time I've ever logged in and seen the different languages.
Well, we got excited.
Good. I mean, they're definitely trying to meet the needs because that's a growing need across districts. Any other questions?
Nope.
Okay, great. We'll keep going. Okay, so over in our reports here, you can see we have 4 different types of reports students can see, or teachers can see rather. The first is an activity report. And I want to point out to you that you're looking at the last 7 days right now, but you can always customize the time frame that you're viewing. And it breaks your students into 2 groups. It will show you which of your students are active and inactive. So for our active students, it tells you how many books they've read. You will not see these features. Shows you how many times that child has logged in, how much time they've logged in for, how many stars they've earned, and how much time they've spent on the incentives. Lastly, you can see some alerts. So if I click on the alert, it lets me know that Brittany has failed the past 6 questions, focusing on main idea and details. For my inactive students, I can see which level they're at, and I can see the last time they log in. These features are related to writing. Now, if I go over to assignment progress, I can see another snapshot of my class, and I can see where everybody is. So I can see for Brittany, she's working at level D, and she has completed 83% of it. And Cora over here is at level D, and she's completed 8% of it. You again will not see Head Start early reading. So these are just providing you with quick overviews of what your class is doing. One report I really like is the skill report. This will give you a lot of great information to inform instruction. Now I'm looking at the last 30 days, but I'm going to make it for the last year so that I have more data. And you can see this report is going to break down all those comprehension quizzes that the students took by skill. So you can see here for compare and contrast, my students have answered 38 questions correctly out of 46, and their accuracy with that skill is 83%. So you could look at this report and determine some needs for your class when teaching whole group. Looking at this, I can see that my class struggles a little bit with making inferences. And if I click on the actual skill, it will break it down even further for me. It will show me that these are the only students in my class that have answered questions about making inferences, and I can see what their accuracy is. So before looking at that report, it felt like maybe I should do some whole class instruction on making inferences. But looking a little bit deeper, I see that half of those students that have even answered questions on making inferences are doing just fine. It's really only 3 students that need some support. So instead of doing a whole class lesson, I'm going to decide to do a small group lesson with just those students. Now, you can also view reports at the individual student level. To do that, you go to Manage Students and you can click on any student you want, and you can see data for just them. And this is the same reports that the parents are going to see. So over here you can see it's Brittany, and we have our overview button. This is the exact same page that I showed you when I logged in as a parent, with those status updates, the last 5 books that she read, and the quick stats. I can see different reports for Brittany. Now, not all of these are going to be appropriate or applicable to you depending on which programs you've purchased from us. But the first one is activity. And the activity report is nice because it shows me everything Brittany has done every time she logs in. So today you can see I took the quiz for To the Store. I got a score of 2 out of 5. I missed 3 questions. One of them was on classify information, one was on main ID and details, and one was on vocabulary. Notice it does not show you that I listened or read that book because I actually never completed either of those tasks. But if I would have, you would have seen every little thing I have done. The next report that I love is the assignment progress. This shows you everything that's happening in that reading assignment category. So you can see that Brittany is at level D. She has completed 47 out of 60 tasks. And you can see every book at level D. And for each book, you can see how many times she's listened to the book, how many times she's read it, how many times she's taken the quiz, and her high score. So when I look at this report, I like to look at the high score and say, okay, 5 out of 5, she's doing great. But then I also want to look at how many times she took the quiz. Because for example, Maria's Halloween here, Brittany got a 4 out of 5, but she took this quiz 4 times. So that's not very good. When that happens, you want to look at how many times they listened and read each book, because you might be able to see that students aren't using the application the way they're supposed to. And if you meet with them and let them know that you know what they're doing, you're going to get better results because students are going to see that you have eyes in the back of your head, which I love. So this gives you a lot of information. And if students are listening and reading the books as many times as you feel necessary and still not doing well, then you might want to lower their reading level. But this will give you a lot of information on what they're doing and what needs to be done. Sometimes you just have to meet with students and let them know that they can listen and read the books as many times as they want, and that that's what good readers do. I always used to tell my students that I would read articles, get to the end, and think to myself, I have no clue what I just read, because while I was reading, I was thinking about what I need to get from the grocery store. So I would go back and I would reread it, and sometimes they need to do that too. The last report here I want to show you is the quiz test skills, because just as we were able to see the skills broken down at the class level, you can see them also broken down at the individual level. So I can see how Brittany is doing on each skill. Now going back to our Manage Students button, we have assignments here. I'm going to quickly show you that you can assign assessments and assignments to your students. So over here to the left, you'll see the buttons for Assign an Assessment and Create a Custom Assignment. The other 2 options are for other applications. So to assign an assessment, you click on that link, and it shows you the 3 different assignments that assessments that you can assign to your students. We have the running record, the alphabet assessment, and high frequency word assessment. To assign them, you just click on the one you want and follow the steps. So step 1 is select your students. So you decide if you want to assign this assessment to all your students or just specific students. Then for a running record, you would select the reading level that the student's going to take the assessment at. And then you select the benchmark passage or book that you want them to take. Then you just click Assign Assessment, and when students log in, it's going to be the very first thing they see. And I'll just show you the alphabet one also, just so that you see that they all follow the same format. So for this one, we select our students, and then you select the type of assessment you want. An alphabet assessment can either be done multiple choice or as a recorded assessment. And then you click Assign Assessment, and again, they will see it. The other option here is to create a custom assignment. And let's say you're teaching about seasons, and maybe you want to give your students some books about seasons to read. You can create an assignment for seasons, then select the students that you want to take that assignment, and then click Continue to Next Step. And then you select the type of books you want. So over here you see a lot of the options that were in that More Books category. Right now we're going to stick with level books, but if you're a kindergarten teacher, you can assign even alphabet books to your students. Then you pick a reading level, and you look for books that suit your need. So for example, we have fall here. I can have my students either listen or read or do both, and then they automatically have to take a quiz with it. And if I scroll down, I think there's winter hats. I can assign them that one as well. And I click Save Assignment. Then when students log into Raz Kids, they click on the Reading Assignment Planet, and instead of seeing what they normally do at their self-paced level, they're going to see these 2 books that I just assigned them. Once they complete these 2 books, then they will see what is typically under Reading Assignment. All right, I got one last thing to show you under Raz Kid, and then we really have to get over to Reading A to Z. There's just so much information now. So the last feature is our in-basket, and that's where the assessments are going to go and practice recordings. So you can see here's an example of an assessment. I See Tall Trees is the benchmark passage that Brittany completed. And you can see that our benchmarks are made up of 3 parts: a reading, a retelling, and a quiz. For the reading, you hit play, and you can listen to Brittany as she reads. And then you follow along, and anytime she says a word in error, you click on it and select the type of error that it is. And you'll notice that there's a scorecard over here that automatically calculates the score and the accuracy. When you're done, you go to the retelling. You hit play, and you'll listen to Brittany do a retelling of the passage. You score her using this rubric, and there's a guide over here to help you determine which score you should give for the student for each category. And then lastly, there's a quiz. And since it's multiple choice, it's already scored for you, but you can see the results. When you're done, you just click Finished, and those results are going to be saved. And you can go into the Teacher Corner to the About Running Records link and analyze the results and determine what the reading level is going to be, or if you need to reassess. Back into our in-basket, we also have practice recordings. So here's one for Bats Day and Night. I would just hit play, and I would follow along as Brittany reads. And then when I'm done, I have the ability to send Brittany a message letting her know that I read it or listened to her, and I can award her bonus stars if I choose to. And these are saved in the in-basket as well. Okay, that was